Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to Youth Wednesdays on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. This morning, we're discussing Tobago's autonomy, and you would have met our panelists last week, so I think we can skip the introductions and get right into the conversation. But first, let's see, how are you all feeling this morning? Everybody okay? Anybody nervous?
I guess you could say we are nervous because we know that a lot of persons are listening and we have persons who agree and disagree, but a lot of persons are very vocal about their personal opinions, so I guess that's something we have to watch out for.
Yes.
Well, I mean, don't focus on it too much, you know, just express yourselves, be free, say what you have to say, you know, as long as it's in keeping with what Tobago stands for, you know. Okay.
Yeah, I think viewers are very raw, unfiltered, unopinionated.
That is exactly what we are looking for.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into it. Recently, we heard the Chief Secretary refer to his idea of Tobago's autonomy to a quasi-federal state, right? Give us some of the pros and cons that you think Tobago can achieve from something like this. I mean, talking about places like Canada and Scotland within the UK. Let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the benefits or some of the drawbacks that Tobago can experience from quasi-federal state?
Well, Kayleigh, we need to remember that Trinidad and Tobago is somewhat defined as a unitary state. I remember when they had the GSC sit-in, when they were trying to bring in principles that are used in federal type states, they were saying that it would not apply to Trinidad and Tobago because for the main reason that we are supposed to remain somewhat unitary. So I think we need to focus on that the bill is proposing that we become a unicameral system. So that in itself, you know, it has its pros and its cons. I think with a unicameral system, we can look forward to more efficiency when it comes to passing bills and all those stuff. But I think that it will probably have some disadvantages, such as bills will become too hastily passed. I think in Trinidad, where we have the bicameral system, the bills are more open to more scrutiny. It can be debated longer.
Yeah, you see that part. It was very interesting in terms of the unicameral system because you see, at first, the bill that was sent in 2018, it proposed a bicameral system and it was changed because of the EBC saying that it's not suitable to Tobago's makeup because it would be disproportionate. But what it is that the Senate offers is that check, that type of independent bench that keeps the House of Representatives in check, because the voting system in Tobago is kind of, we see a pattern of majority, like a majority party being selected in terms of the seats. We've had 11-1, we have 12-0, we just had 14-1. So when you have a unicameral system like that, it leads to a system where if you have a majority set of seats, where would there be any accountability? You would see bills being passed without any opposition really, because the minority is disproportionate in terms of seats to the majority. So where would that accountability come from? Would we see bills being passed for political gain? We see bills being passed because this party wants that, but is it really in the best interest of Tobagonians? You know, not all laws are perfect and not all laws are good laws, which we will know. So we need to have a system where that accountability can be checked. I think that we need more independent persons in the Tobago legislature. I love the idea of us having the ability to make our own laws, but to what end can we make our own laws, but it may not be truly in the benefit of Tobagonians?
Correct. Any opinions on this side?
I mean, it is very important that we have accountability measures in place, because you don't want a case where, as she rightfully said, people are doing things for political gain. It is time that we put aside the politics for the best interests of all of Tobago. And that system, in which it involves ensuring that there is a heavy presence of accountability. There are people to scrutinize the bill and the legislature to ensure that the bills that are proposed are in the best interest of not some, but all, or a majority of the island, is very important as we go forward in rolling out this autonomy process.
And I share those same sentiments because the bills, the laws that are going to be passed, we have to think about it. How is it going to affect the persons living on the island, not just the politicians or those who are up there, but the average man? Will these laws be beneficial to us? Would they be affecting us? And we need to start looking at it from a bottom-up approach and not just a top-down perspective. Because at the end of the day, if we receive that level of autonomy, it all boils down to us as a people, and it's not for us because it's a political thing. It's for us as a people of Tobago. This is the benefit the people of Tobago, and not for political gain, as Jhada would have said, or for personal gain. So you may pass a bill that may not be beneficial to the average person, and it's more beneficial to the business owner, etc., and that they will just continue growing and growing and growing, but the island is not developing as well collectively.
Okay, yes.
Speaking of development, obviously development is the ultimate goal. Keigon, you would have mentioned something last week regarding the amount of money that we are losing each year, that we don't have the that we don't achieve Tobago's autonomy, right? With this new set of cash that we will be receiving, this new set of income that the country would be receiving, what are some of the things that you think are most important for Tobago's development? As a young person, you know, young persons coming up, we probably want to have our own family soon and that kind of thing. What are some of the things that you see most important?
That's a very important point. I did a bit of research. I like to have conversations on the block because I like the block university, as we call it. And I asked some of the gentlemen on the block, what does autonomy mean to them? And most people could not respond. And then when I explained to them that every year that Tobago does not attain that level of autonomy, we lose 1.3 on average $billion every year of funding that could be injected into our society, there was silence on the block. And they asked me the question, so if we are supposed to get more, why have they not passed the bill? What is Tobago losing? Think about it, Kayleigh. Think about losing $1.3 billion every year. What could that do for our island as it pertains to development? Better healthcare, better socio-economic programs, social programs to meet the needs of those who are on the breadline or even below the breadline, and better infrastructure, better opportunities for young persons. We live in an island where, on average, the amount of money that we can do for infrastructural development is about $300 million. It hasn't passed $403 million in the past 10 years or so. And most of Tobago's budget goes to recurrent expenditure, which means that we really cannot do as much as we should be able to do as an island as it pertains to development. So now add 1.3 billion extra dollars to that. If we have been able to do so much with so little, imagine how much more we could do with an extra $1 billion annually. So I want you to put some things into perspective because numbers are important. Think about if 2 or 3 years ago the bill was passed. That would have meant an average of $4 billion more would have been injected into the economy of Tobago. What would that mean for you as a young person? Better jobs, an even greater thriving private sector, a better public service. You may have more opportunities that you may not feel as a young person that you need to leave Tobago to be able to spread your wings. You feel like you could literally blossom where you are planted.
I want to touch on something you said in terms of recurrent expenditure. I mean, the proposed minimum that is in the current bill is what, 6.9% or 6.8%. As a Tobagonian, I don't think that is enough in terms of what you're talking about with recurrent expenditure, because you're proposing to give Tobago more autonomy, more administrative powers, more powers to create laws and have more control over Tobago affairs. So when it says you bring that workforce of administrative responsibility that is in Trinidad, you see that we will need more jobs in Tobago. We're going to need more money to pay more salaries. We're going to need more money to develop certain sectors. And when you look at that and all the money that is going to go into the influx of developing Tobago in that way, what money is going to be left over when you look at an increase from 4 point to 6 point and everything else that we have to take into account that will be coming to Tobago that we have to spend our expenditure on. So I think that yes, it is good that we are getting an increase, but is the increase enough?
I think one of the things they were trying to do to address that situation would have been taxes. So there will be taxes specifically going towards Tobago now. So like for example, we have taxes we pay and they go towards central government. I think what they're trying to do now is have some of those taxes go towards the Tobago fund itself. So that way now we can also continue gaining and gaining and gaining. And in addition to what you were saying, opposed to infrastructure, what about more economically friendly vehicles, hybrid vehicles for the THA, because we know a lot of them have their vehicles and they will be more fuel efficient and more beneficial to the environment. Fire service, does this mean that now the THA can tap into the fund to purchase more tenders for the fire service, more vessels for the Coast Guard, more for the police, more ambulances for the island? Because these are the things we need to start looking at as well, because if there are more ambulances, that's more work for persons who already have that paramedic or that EMT status. More tenders for fire service, so we'll have a better response, because if there's a fire in 3 parts of the island, it'll be a struggle for them to respond because they just do not have enough equipment as well as simple breathing apparatuses. So I'm not sure if they'll be able to provide some sort of economic gain for these persons, but yeah.
Okay, before we take a short break, let's hear your take on the...
I think I like to address the elephant in the room, and I think this entire autonomy bill, we fail to realize that since its inception, the bill has become polluted with political ideologies. Now, I realize that the general public, they don't have the knowledge like Keigon would have raised. Not much people know what the autonomy bill is about, so they will more look to what they hear on the news, hear from our politicians exactly on what the bill proposes. And in the past years, we heard a lot of propaganda. We heard things about secession, we heard things about separating from Trinidad, we heard things about Trinidad having to be oppressed and all these colorful languages. But it's until you as a person sit down and read the bill and you understand what it's about, it's easier for you to separate fact from propaganda. So I think that is a very serious issue that we are facing in Tobago, especially in the youth space. Like Keigon said, if you ask a random young person what is the bill about, they wouldn't be able to answer you. But I'm sure they will be able to regurgitate things that they heard coming from certain politicians. So I think the true essence of the bill was lost, because the bill wasn't so separate and cause all this bacchanal. It was just to strengthen the unity we have with Trinidad and Tobago, while giving Tobago that responsibility to the matters that you know relate to Tobago. So that's what I have to say for now.
Okay, well, I think definitely after today's session, we should not have any young persons who don't know or who have, you know, they probably may still have questions. You can ask the questions in the chat, as I said before, on our Facebook Live. Our panelists will be very happy to answer you. So to all of our young persons out there, all the viewing public in general, we're going to be taking a very short break and we are going to be right back. Remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. Welcome back to Youth Wednesdays here on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We are continuing the conversation. When we left, Luke would have been speaking about a lot of young persons within the Tobago space not knowing exactly what is taking place with the Tobago autonomy situation. In addition to that, you all would have seen the bill, you all would have done your research, I am sure. What is there that you think should be changed? Is there anything that you think should be changed? Do you agree with everything? Do you think that everything is really within the best interest of Tobago, or do you think there should be some amendments?
Well, there is no perfect bill ever. There was never a perfect bill to be passed. I mean, what is being proposed is definitely more than what we currently have. But the question is what is being proposed enough for Tobagonians? Because at the end of the day, when these parliamentarians pass the bill in Trinidad, they don't live over here. They are not suffering the effects of the bill. It is us. And I don't think that there is really enough Tobagonians, I should say, in the parliamentary space that could adequately advocate for the needs of Tobago, the living needs of Tobago. So in terms of what I was off air, we were talking about the percentage. That 6.8% is not something that is going to be entrenched in the constitution. Just like they could propose a bill to change the minimum that we have now to a greater minimum. What is to say that a opposition party, or not even opposition, what is to say a party in the national election has a majority of 31 seats, and they say, okay, we are going to change this minimum. Tobago getting too much money with the 6.8. Let us change it back to, because we want to conserve money in the national budget, or what is to stop that? So I see that there are a lot of disparities in terms of what is truly right for Tobago, and maybe there should be some amendments, but the bill does propose a lot of benefits that we don't currently have, but there could be a bit more.
Now, Jhada, you mentioned something very important there regarding not enough Tobagonians being there, because they would definitely know the Tobago culture. If you're not living in Tobago, you wouldn't be able to have the Tobago experience and know what Tobagonians want, what Tobagonians need. And we can see things like this happening within the United States. They have their central government, but then they have the different states would have different laws, because the culture of the states would be different. Some states would have the marijuana laws, some states have abortion laws, firearm, those different kind of things, because the culture is different within the states. Now, what is your take on that regarding Trinidad, Tobago? Do you think that Tobago has enough representation regarding the Tobago Autonomy Bill? Do you think that the Trinidadians who are there in the parliament, do you think that they definitely know what we need as Tobagonians? Do you think that they have the Tobago experience, they know the Tobago culture? What are your thoughts on that?
No, that is a very tricky topic to get into, because you have to be careful of how you bring across the point. You don't want to seem as though you're purporting a Trinidad versus Tobago kind of agenda. However, who best to advocate for Tobago than for somebody who lives in Tobago and somebody who understands the culture? And Jhada would have raised an important point. Are there individuals in Trinidad who has Tobago's best interest at heart? And when you think about what Tobago loses every year, Kayleigh, when you think about what Tobago loses every year, you wonder to yourself, why have they not given Tobago more autonomy? You touched on a very important point as it pertains to the different laws for different states in the United States. And that is so because they understand that one cup could never fit everyone. You have to treat with every state, every island, every culture individually. Though Tobago and Trinidad has a lot of similarities, we also have a lot of differences as it pertains to culture and our way of life. And so, as it pertains to the lawmaking aspect, where Tobago focuses a lot on tourism, on agriculture, on that marine environment, and so nobody in Trinidad is going to take crime that is so rampant, leave that aside, and focus on Tobago affairs. So you have to have a situation where there are Tobagonians advocating for Tobago and putting Tobago first. And that could only happen with greater autonomy.
I also share those sentiments, because when you look at the culture of the US, they still have their jurisdiction within their different states. However, the federal government would oversee a simple state. So there will be the state of, let's say, New York. They have their NYPD. Now, if there's an investigation being conducted or someone breaks a specific type of law which is guided by the Constitution, then we know then and there the federal, which is the FBI, they would step into play and oversee or overpower those of the NYPD. Now, for our autonomy, with the laws that we are going to be passing, or if we are presented the opportunity, it will still be guided with the assistance of the president. So I know a lot of people say they don't see the president or they never hear from the president. Well, now we're going to be working side by side with said person. So I think that it's all about accountability and transparency, as well as taking a bottom-up approach and ensuring that the laws that are going to be passed are genuinely beneficial. We need to see more consultations, especially on from a youth perspective, because they always forget about us, or they may include 1 and 2 young persons, but that's still not a substantial amount, because you could ask, there are a lot of children within high schools who may have better ideas than some of the persons who have BScs and MScs or PhDs. So we need to have a wider scope or a wider group of persons giving contributions to this, as well as we need to start ensuring that the media the media needs to start pushing out the more important information and stop just pushing out stuff to clickbait persons, as well as just to get that traction, because how you simply word something can make a big difference, because a lot of persons believe because it comes from the media, it's a credible source, and just the wording by itself, exactly, the wording by itself will just make it seem as though it's what it's not supposed to be, just for the attention of the reader, or for more views, or for more traction to their page.
Okay, I appreciate everything I'm hearing, and guys, I love how you touch on the United States to use it as, you know, somewhat as a parallel, because what a lot of people don't know is that when you are trying to amend a constitution, it takes time. It's a long process. So in this space, we'll hear people saying, you know, this autonomy bill is a long time they're talking about it, it's a long time going on, but that is the process, but not everyone knows that. If we are to look in the United States, if my memory serves me right, the 27th Amendment to the United States that dealt with the salaries paid to United States congressmen or women or whatever, I think that was the longest amendment to date. It took over 202 years, 7 months and 12 days. And it's a long process, because you just can't call and say, well, hey, there's this area in the Constitution, I would like to do a transaction, three to 5 business days. It doesn't work like that. And that long process, it is deliberate, because it provides stability, it provides broad consensus, and it makes sure that you are critically analyzing the changes that are being made. So this long deliberate process, in a sense, in essence, it somewhat protects the fundamental principles of the Constitution, and it will help us avoid things such as, you know, hastily or harmful decisions that we, you know, just, for example, if we are to amend the Constitution, you know, quickly, when it is passed, it is gonna probably create more problems than, you know, solutions. So when we hear people in this space talking, oh, well, if I'm taking long, it's a long time we're doing this. This is just the process, and the more time we take, the more consideration we put into evaluating what we are going to, you know, amending the Constitution, the better it's going to be for Tobagonians. So yes, Keigon, I understand that you raise that the longer we wait, it is a loss. But the longer we take to really make sure that this thing is perfect, that we don't have to come back here another time, I think it's something that we really need to appreciate. And I think the speed, the momentum I'm seeing, I think it's better compared to what we see in the United States, because they don't play with the Constitution. You could talk all you want to change, and they will just brush you off. But the fact that in 2024, the Tobago autonomy discussion is still alive and kicking, it's still engaging, I think it's something we really need to appreciate.
Okay, so Luke is saying that the time frame is definitely necessary, and Keigon is saying that it's taking too long. And you know, viewers, this is definitely because Keigon is a finance guy, so he wants the money now. But Luke wants us to make sure that it's perfect. I love that we are using the comparison, you know, we're doing the comparison with the United States. I think that's very important. Comparison is always good. You know, that's they would consider themselves first world, we are still developing. So it's good for us to compare ourselves with them. In terms of what you would have mentioned, Keigon, with Trinidad having crime and not wanting to put that aside to focus on Tobago. In terms of something like crime, let's talk about crime and comparing it to the United States again. When you think about the United States and you think about crime, do we think about it by the state, or do we say the United States? Because you might think, okay, New York has a lot of crime. Maybe California or somewhere there has a lot of crime. Or do we say, you know, the United States, the crime rate is high, or, you know, you want to go to probably North Carolina. I'm not sure how much crime there is in North Carolina, but we don't hear about, you know, crazy things, you know, people just killing everybody, a lot of killing happening every day in states like that. So do you think people make the differentiation? Tobago has crime, Trinidad has crime. Do you think that they make that differentiation? Do you think that that is something that we can achieve through Tobago autonomy? Because recently when we had one of the cruise ships in Tobago, before the persons came off the cruise ship, they told them, don't wear jewelry and that kind of thing. Because that is what happens in Trinidad. So they think that is the same thing that is going to happen in Tobago. Yes, we have crime happening in Tobago. I don't know what is taking place right now. It's getting very crazy. But do you think that we can achieve that differentiation as it relates to crime with the Tobago autonomy bill?
I would just quickly say that at the end of the day, we are a republic, at Twin Island, one republic. However, I think that there should be some separation in terms of statistics. So as we relate to crime, we will look at crime per capita, right? So the crime rate in Trinidad per capita is significantly different to the crime rate in Tobago per capita. Now, if we get more in-depth into it, we would look at environmental factors such as how much carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide is emitted in Trinidad in comparison to Tobago. But at the end of the day, they look at it as a collective. Now, when we go out on an international platform, they don't really see Trinidad and they don't see Tobago separated. They more so see Trinidad and then somebody might mention Tobago. Now, what I think we can do is start separating statistics from a tourism perspective, because at the end of the day, we thrive on tourism. I know things are seemingly bad at this point in time for the island as it relates to gun violence especially, but I think that is something we can maintain, because once again, it also goes back to the media, because a lot of good things are happening on the island, but media houses or other persons choose to share bad information or bad news opposed to something good happening. We don't really congratulate persons as much anymore. Everything is always, he did this or she did this, so we have that sharing more and more. So I think simple things are separating statistics or being more vocal and reporting accurately is more important for us, as it would benefit the island.
But that is very important in terms of ensuring that we separate the statistics. You see, the thing about it is, when you research Trinidad and Tobago, you're not going to see Tobago has 5 murders for the year and Trinidad has 500.
See the total.
You're going to see the total amount of murders per capita for the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And last year, we hosted the Caribbean Regional Youth Conference right here in Tobago. And a number of young persons came and they said that it's the safest they have felt. They walked on the road, they didn't feel like they were targets, they were walking from their hotel to the places of enjoyment down at the strip there in Crown Point and so. And they said Tobago is amazing, Tobago is lovely, we didn't know it was so nice and so. And so we have to do our part as young people. We must do our part, while we wait on central government or so and the Tobago Autonomy Bill, we have to do our part in marketing the island and ensuring that we brand Tobago in such a safe, green, serene environment. Because what we have seen so far is that we have the power in our hands, literally. Social media is such an important tool that we can use. One TikTok video
could change the whole perspective of an entire country.
Exactly.
Could change your perspective of an entire country. Watch out the lady who came and spoke about the taxi driver.
That is so true.
So we have to be able to sell the positives of the island, because we focus so much on the negative, but there are so many positives on the island here that we can market and we can share to ensure that when people research Trinidad and Tobago, Tobago pops up as safe, green, clean and serene. And we could literally be the greatest little island on the earth, as they say.
Definitely something we should capitalize on, because I'm not sure if you would have remembered the October Carnival that we would have had last year. It was 100% safe.
Yep.
And that is definitely something that we should capitalize on and be proud of as Tobagonians. But viewers, we're going to continue the conversation. Right now we're going to take a very short break. Remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Good morning.
Alright viewers, we are back discussing all things Tobago Autonomy. Well, unfortunately some of the gang had to disappear, so at this moment we're going to wrap things up with our final appeals to the people of Tobago. Jhada, you want to kick things off for us?
No problem. What I want to say to Tobagonians is to get more educated and more informed on the bills and what it would really mean, what is being proposed. We see that there are propositions of not having that interference from cabinet as much in terms of the administrative duties and functions of Tobago. We're going to have a Tobago-led really administration fully involved in Tobago's affairs. And what that would mean is that when you go out and you go to elect persons, I hope that we take a great sense of pride in voting and ensuring that the people that we elect have the best interests of Tobagonians at heart. You see that currently we have a Prime Minister that is a Tobagonian, we have a President of the Senate, we have a Chief Justice, we have a King's Council. I want us to elect a Chief Secretary and elect what they propose, a Secretary of Legal Affairs, with that same distinction as we are electing a Prime Minister or we are electing a Minister of the House. So I hope that we take a great sense of pride and that we see that more autonomy will be coming to Tobago, which would mean that we have to be more involved in our own affairs as Tobagonians, and we have to be more responsible and take more take more pride, as I want to stress on. I hope that we really feel that sense, and we focus a lot on our autonomy and our island.
Okay, Jhada, excellent. And just to touch on that, like you said, it's really important for us as Tobagonians to have that sense of pride in who we are, because it's only until you leave the island, for example, I'm studying in Trinidad, that you start to understand why people like Mr. Ho Choi Charles was fighting for what he was fighting for. Everything starts to make sense, because when you go to Trinidad, we somewhat feel marginalized. We somewhat feel like we are not appreciated. And then when you sit and you think, it's like, oh, this is why Mr. Charles was advocating so vigorously for Tobago's autonomy. And like I said earlier, just take probably 45 minutes to an hour out of it to sit down and read the bills that have been proposed, because it's really easy to lose the meaning and you know, to just get polluted with a lot of political noise. But I would like to say that it's, like I said last week, it's time for us as Tobagonians to have the power, the same power that they have in Parliament, to make our own laws that are relative to what we do here in Tobago. We are not asking to separate, we're not asking for all the bacchanal. What we are asking for is that as Tobagonians, as life is developing, as society is developing, it's time for our law, our constitution to develop also, so that Tobago's interest is put first in our constitution. So that's all I have to say, you know.
I have to agree with you, Luke, and also with you, Jhada. It is time for us to continuously send out that call, reminding Tobagonians of the importance and the need for us to attain our own autonomy, to get our own self-government. So I'm calling on all the persons who have the power in their hands. As a young Tobagonian, we are making that call to you. The Prime Minister indicated that he's going to again table these bills to the Parliament. When that time comes, we want you all to vote in favor of the bill, in the best interest of Tobago. The bills may not be perfect, but they are better and places Tobago in a better position than we are currently in right now. So if you truly care about Tobago, if you truly care about Tobagonians and the advancement of this island, support this bill. Ensure that Tobago gets what Tobago deserves. It may not be perfect, but it is better. It is progress. Perfection is not what we are going for right now. We are going for progression. So put aside all the politics and do what is best for all the young people you see seated here this morning, for all the young people who may not have a voice. The power is in your hands. We need a 3/5 majority, and we cannot attain it without the support of both the government and the opposition. So do what is right. Do what is in the best interest of all the young people, the future of Tobago, and ensure that Tobago gets what Tobago deserves.
Okay, nice. And guys, we touched on the media. We would have highlighted that the media somewhat they highlight the negative parts of what is going on in Trinidad and Tobago. But I mean, then again, when you see a story about crime, you'll faster click it than something that probably relates to the environment. Do you think that as young people, we can now probably come together, do a little media activism to really sell what Tobago is all about, especially with this autonomy discussion? Because in the US, you know, when they are trying to reform constitution, they rely heavily on the media to shape the persuasive narrative of the population. So do you think as young people we can come together and really do something where Tobago's autonomy is concerned?
Young people, Tobagonians, everyone, we need to be more vocal and not just wait for Parliament to discuss or debate, but we need to say what we want. We need to come out and say, okay, I saw this in the bill, or I saw that, and I think that we deserve more, or I think that this is good. You know, we need to really say what exactly we want. We know that based on the consultations, what first went to Parliament is not what is before the House now. Right. It was first one bill that amended the Constitution, and then we see two bills coming for to be proposed. Are we in agreement fully with these two bills? Is it something that is in the companion bill that we want in the amendment to the Constitution? We need to speak up, and we need to speak out and say this is what Tobago wants in order for us to truly achieve what we deserve, as Keigon was saying.
Yes. You know, right in Tobago, we will say that, we're not going to accept no Jenny Hen bring Ramgo type thing. I think as Tobagonians, we are supposed to say, well, this is what we want, this is what we deserve, and we're going to strongly advocate for it. We're not going to take any breadcrumbs and say, well, yeah, thank you, please. No. This is what we need for Tobago's development, and we are advocating for it. We will continue to advocate for it. Like I said earlier, it's interesting. It warms my heart that after all these years, the discussion about Tobago's autonomy is still alive, relevant, and kicking. So it's time for us to capitalize on this momentum, and now is the time that we really should be advocating for Tobago's betterment, Tobago's development. And we love Tobago. This is our island, but this sense that we have to wait or depend on Parliament, like we raised earlier, who may not be appreciative of the nuances of Tobago culture or struggle or story. I think it's time for that to end. It's 2024, which is this is a very visionary year. So I look forward to see where these discussions go, where these debates go. We are going to be tuned in. I would love to see somewhat if more young people, like we said, are included in these discussions. Because we have value, we have opinions, we have that fresh perspective that I think the bill is lacking. So I look forward to that. Keigon.
I totally agree, and as you rightfully said, some bills take a longer period in time to be ascended, and so if young persons like ourselves are not passionate about it, in time the bills will die. So we are encouraging all young Tobagonians, get on board, be passionate about this, because literally together everyone achieves more, right? And the only people that lose with the delay of this bill are Tobagonians. So ensure that we do what is necessary, that the people that come behind us will be proud. Let it not be said that they came and they could have done better. Let it be said that they came and they did well.
Exactly.
Alright, viewers, so I think, I'm sorry, the fun is coming down till an end. But we have 3 more minutes. What are we going to do in 3 more minutes, guys? We're going to treat it.
I want Tobagonians to really think about why we are in this position. I know that we heavily rely on the public sector in terms of job allocations in Tobago, and something that is struggling and that pushes our private sector. We need to develop our agriculture more, we need to develop our tourism more, and not wait on that, not wait on help or that reliance really on the government. We as Tobagonians, we have so many entrepreneurial ventures that we can go into that can appeal to tourists coming in, that can appeal to the region. We have so many Tobago foods, we have delicacies that we can focus on exporting that to internationally, and we have so much craftsmen, and our private sector needs that push, and it starts with us in Tobago. We need to do more, and we need to contribute more to our economy and build our economy more. How do you all feel about it?
I totally agree, and I like that you touched on the private sector, but I would also touch on the public sector as well, because this bill, if you go in depth into it, you will recognize that it allows us to really fix the issues that we face here in the public sector on the island. We are able now to fill vacancies faster, deal with persons who have outstanding increments, deal with persons who haven't been promoted in years and stuff like that. So the bill allows us to efficiently and effectively manage and run our public sector. And when an efficient and effective public sector and a thriving private sector come together, that is an unstoppable island. That is literally the greatest little island on earth.
Okay, so guys, I think we've reached the end at this moment. We want to thank everyone for tuning in. I just have homework for you all this week. Go on the internet and search up the bill, search up what's happening, and just read it for yourself and get that understanding. So when people come and want to have the conversation with you, you can have the conversation, you can contribute. So for everyone who's listening, all our regional partners, just know that Tobago is developing. We are advocating for autonomy and Hoovex laws. So so we're gonna take do I end the show? Do we take a break? Okay, so at this moment, guys, we have come to the end of our youth show here on Tobago Updates. We thank you once again for tuning in. We love you all. We appreciate your views and your opinions. So take care on this blessed Wednesday, and I'll see you next week. Actually, no, this is my last show. School is next week, so I'm gonna miss you all. So you'll probably see me in the next 3 to 5 business months. So so thank you once again for tuning in. Take care.